Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining. I'm Kennedy Owen, as you may know. And I noticed that you specifically, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the things that you focus on is labor economics. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay, amazing. And is it right that you kind of, one of the things you look into is like minimum wages and discrimination?
That's correct. And a lot on higher education.
Amazing. What kind of got you into that?
Well, I think just when I was in college, seeing, you know, the wide range of courses you can take and the differences and how those courses were graded, um, just got me thinking about how your education affects your future earnings and your future life.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you for what you do. Obviously making a big impact on the community. Um, as you mentioned, like in college, you kind of noticed that. Where did you go to college? And can you kind of elaborate on how that experience was, studying economics or whatever?
So I went to a small liberal arts school in Salem, Oregon, called Willamette.
Mhm,
And at these small liberal arts schools, the professors are really paid to teach.
mhm,
So, and the classes tend to be small. And that was great. So I felt like I got a ton of attention from the faculty. One time I skipped one of my economics classes, and I saw that professor later on walking across campus, and he said to me, "You look like somebody in my class, but he was sick today." So, that experience you get at the small liberal arts school is pretty different from what you would get like at a big state school. Um, and even, I'm at Duke University, you know, we have a PhD program. Uh, while teaching is definitely important to me, what is rewarded the most at a place like Duke is research.
mhm.
And that's really in contrast to more of the small liberal arts schools.
Yeah. Mhm. I was talking to a Northeastern professor, like this morning, and he was speaking on the same thing. He was just saying that those liberal arts colleges, specifically for more economics, are more like in tune with teaching, and then the bigger ones, you get more into the research, the big research projects, all of the sorts. And
That's
then
right.
yeah, so you're currently at Duke, correct?
That's right.
Of course. And is there anything personally, Duke is my top college. Is there anything with the economics program, curriculum that you kind of notice is unique, compared to other universities?
Yeah, so I think one of the things you'll see at a place like Duke, economics is a very popular major. And so the classes for the core requirements tend to be a bit bigger than you'd find like at a small liberal arts school. Uh, but they've recently put a heavy emphasis on research for undergraduates. So we have somebody gave a lot of money so that I can basically hire many undergraduate research assistants and have the department pay for it. And so that allows students to get involved with research projects at a very early stage. I think part of that push has been too is economics, because Duke does not have an undergraduate business major. Economics is really a catch-all for both economics and people who want to go in the business world and do finance and such. So Duke is really known for its good connections on Wall Street and on the finance side. But what we're trying to do now is provide more opportunities to show what you can do with an economics degree besides finance. None of my research is
Yeah.
very finance connected.
Mhm. And so you kind of mentioned that these are bigger class sizes just because it is a very popular major. Do you like with your teaching, do you like see a lot of lecture halls or can you explain more about that?
Yeah, it's mainly just for those core classes. So you're going to have to take, principles of economics, then intermediate microeconomics. Those are the classes that are big. And then when you get further up, then you'll have smaller classes.
I see.
Anything from 10 to 40, something along those lines. And that there's where you might get something more specialized. That
Yeah.
would be where you would take a labor economics class.
Yeah, exactly. That makes sense. Is there anything you kind of notice with your students or that you recommend to kind of get ahead of the curve and kind of just truly succeed in the field of economics?
Yes, I think what's happened to economics over many years now is this movement to have it be much more empirical.
Hmm.
So there's a big push now for data science,
Hmm.
and economics sort of fits within that to some degree. So I think more and more having a good background in statistics is really helpful for economics.
Hmm. And do you think that like the major is super math heavy? Or you think it's more of just like the neurological science of it, or how so do you think?
So it's interesting you bring that up because that's actually one of the big contrasts between my experience at Willamette and at Duke.
Hmm.
So at Duke, I teach an intermediate microeconomics class where we're using multivariable calculus all the time. So very math heavy. Duke has recently changed. That's for the bachelor's of science, and it used to be really that was the only way you could go. We've introduced a bachelor of arts where now you don't have to take the intermediate micro with all the calculus,
Hmm.
and that matches more with my experience at Willamette, where there was no calculus really in the major.
Hmm.
Uh, in economics, I think the main difference would be you do a lot of graphs, and then or you're doing a bunch of math,
Yeah,
but different ways of presenting sort of the same phenomena.
I see. Also, where do you kind of see the future of economics going? That could be like in career paths or like, do you think it's going to be more like technologically heavy?
Yeah, I think more and more that link to data
Mm.
is probably the big thing. And what are the ways to analyze data? And what economics presents is a way of thinking about what's driving those patterns in the data. So,
Mhm.
you hear about artificial intelligence and machine learning and all that stuff. And machine learning might be great at sort of predicting stuff, but you don't know why.
Mhm.
Why is this occurring? And through thinking about the economics, it gives you a better sense for what's sort of underlying those patterns that you're seeing.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, thank you for touching on that. It's just interesting how any career is just changing constantly. As you mentioned with AI, that is just so rapidly growing. It's just unreal. Uh,
Yes.
yeah. Um, w- why do you think like economics is a strong career path or just even a major to have in your pocket?
I think, it's my joke is that all the different model disciplines in the social sciences have different ways of thinking about the world. So
Hmm.
what economics is it's a great model of fallen man.
Hmm.
How do selfish uh, people behave? When you're making choices, in it's in your self-interest.
Yeah.
Other disciplines have different philosophies. Sociology, it's about the group. Evolutionary biology, it's the chemical reactions, in your brain. Psychology, it's about your mom. That's a joke, but fundamentally, what drives you to make decisions. And I
Hmm.
think when we think about what's valued in the marketplace, that idea of the self-interest matters quite a bit for companies thinking about trying to maximize profits and so on. Um, I think that's why there's a lot of demand for economics majors in the marketplace.
Amazing. And as I mentioned before, I am a high school student. So is there any things as I apply over the summer to colleges that you think like my knowledge of economics going into my freshman year of college, like maybe resources of like websites, like research things, anything of the sorts that could be beneficial to my knowledge in economics?
To me, I think the biggest thing is reading stuff that brings out the passion,
Yeah.
because what you need those things that sort of keep you going when you're doing the boring stuff, because
Yeah.
not all of economics is going to be that interesting.
Mhm.
So finding, papers that you find especially interesting, I think is great. Typically articles, there's a journal called the Journal of Economic Perspectives.
Mhm.
That's typically written in such a way that it's more accessible
Mhm.
than a lot of the other economics journals, to sort of give you an overview of what's happening in a particular area.
Mhm.
So that would be a possibility.
Amazing. Yeah, I'll make sure to check out that book you said. Is that correct?
It's actually a journal, so it,
Oh,
it
wow.
comes out every so often.
How cool. Yeah, I like the ones that are like re-evolving and kind of updating with the times. Um,
Yeah.
and then my final question for you is there any qualities in a student that you do believe that economics is the right career path for them?
Well, I think clear thinking. I think economics tends to be very logical and about how their approach to the problems. That can sometimes get economists into trouble because it
Yeah.
might seem like they don't care. Uh, you know, but I think that clear thinking, coupled with a little bit of we're interested in knowing what the data says. The dispassionate approach to the data, I think, is incredibly important to making sure that you're getting answers that are correct.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think that's a great quality as well. In any career path is like just being clear cut and yeah. So, well, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure and so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Have a
Hope the
great
podcast
afternoon.
goes well. All
Thank
right.
you so much. Bye.